All right. So I'm not even sure how that worked. My computer just had it like went haywire. So I guess I'm going to start this over. So I'll find out later if it's freaking the same recording or not. But Alp, it's hot as shit outside. It's miserable. Everybody's sweating. Everybody's angry. Alp is the only thing that keeps you sane, keeps you going, keeps you mentally strong, keeps you wired in and freaking focused. Go get your out. Get those nicotine pouches. Put down the cigarettes. 28 years I smoked. No more. I don't smoke anymore. I can actually breathe. I can walk out to my truck without losing my breath. Sorry. Sorry. Give me a second. No, I'm just kidding. Um, yeah, get your out, man. 10% off. Use a link in the description below. Get the out. Have that nicotine injected right into your fucking veins and set your day off on the right journey. So go get that out, dude. I swear it is like the best nicotine product I have ever used in my life. I love it. $70 or more, you get free shipping, or you can go to the link in the description below and get your 10% off your Alp. I like the reoccurring shipments. And so I always know that once a month I have 15 cans coming into me. That's three logs, 15 cans, and that'll last me the entire month. And that's how I Alp. And it's so much cheaper than cigarettes, man. I save so much money. Oof, jeez. Okay. Anyway, so let's move on. Here's where I screwed up a while ago. I hit a button I wasn't supposed to hit, I'm pretty sure. But I wanted I wanted to play this because I just found this so fucking funny. So I know this is like a week old or whatever, but I didn't record last week, so we're catching up.
Daddy has said sometimes use strong language. Yeah, I think it's a bit of a question of taste, but I think he's a good friend. And when he is doing stuff which is forcing us to, for example, when it comes to making more investments. I mean, would you ever think that this would be the result of this summit if he would not have been re-elected president? Do you really think that the 7 or 8 countries who said, yeah, somewhere in the 2030s we might meet the 2%, we've now all decided in the last 4 or 5 months to get to 2%? So doesn't he deserve some praise? And then Daddy has sometimes.
Okay, so that I don't know. That every time I see that, it makes me laugh. And Daddy has to use some strong language. So the NATO chief, who's apparently a friend of Trump's, called him daddy the other day, and the media was just fucking like had a shit fit about that, which I thought it was fucking funny. I just thought it was hilarious. Like you could tell that they know each other, they're friendly with each other, they're buddies, they're kind of bullshitting, they're bantering back and forth. There was some sarcasm involved in the daddy has to use strong language because Trump was talking about how like if two kids get in a fight on the playground, you got to let them fight for 2 or 3 minutes before you step in and you fucking separate them. And I just thought it was funny. I thought it was a funny analogy. I thought the whole situation was hilarious. But obviously, I mean, like liberals don't have any fucking sense of humor. So they took it all so seriously and also personally. And, of course, the White House came out with a video, so like a montage of Trump coming back from NATO and playing some song like "Daddy's Home" or something. I don't listen to that kind of music, so I don't know what the fuck it was, but apparently it was some freaking rap or R&B song, whatever you want to call it. And it was called "Daddy's Home," which was comical in itself as well. But the point being that I thought the NATO chief was making is actually interesting, and I think it's interesting how much that the perspective of Donald Trump has changed since 2016. And when he went over to NATO in 2017, and they were pretty much looking at him like he's crazy. And now they're kind of bending the knee to him. Now they're kind of giving him what he wants. And I think some of it might have to do with his attitude, his personality, the way that he gets business done. And figured out that he's not a joke, that he's actually there to conduct business and to make deals and to get things done. And he's he understands that if you're the leader of a nation, you have to act in the best interest of that nation. And he doesn't hold that against you, but you have to give him the same respect and understanding to allow him to operate in the best interest of the United States. And I mean, I think that's what real diplomacy looks like. For so long, our 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 politicians, the presidents, they were selling out America for the benefit of the rest of the world out of whatever guilt, or I don't know, like whatever. I can't read their minds. But it's it does, whether you think that Trump makes the right decisions or not, there he does take into consideration like the impact of what he does on the United States, and he's always thinking about the United States above and beyond other nations, which I think is like it's refreshing in some ways. Whether I agree with him all the time or not, it is refreshing to know that I don't believe that he's doing these things, even if these things turn around and ended up hurting us in the long run. I don't think he's doing it for some malicious reason, or or something like that. I truly believe that he believes that these things will work. Like if you look at the tariff situation, he's been talking about tariffs for like 40 years, and how to correct the financial the international trade situation, and how to use tariffs as leverage in order to make trade more beneficial to the United States and bring more jobs back to the United States. Now, whether it works or not, I don't know, but it's easier to give somebody like a little bit of leeway on stuff like that when you know they actually believe it, and that they don't believe that they believe that it's going to have the correct effect on the nation, you know. Whereas like some of these guys, like they just don't believe anything. They do whatever benefits them. They're not in it for the nation, or even for their family. They're in it for themselves and to line their own pockets, to make themselves rich, to give themselves power, you know. And so, and that becomes so obvious uh, after so many times that you see it happen. It's so transparent that it really, I don't know, it increases the ability to be a nihilist, and just wish that the entire system would just burn down and we could just start over from, from a state, a local and state, region, instead of dealing with the whole DC bureaucratic mess that we have to deal with all the time. So, so there is something refreshing about Trump in just in those kind of like scenarios, just under like just that kind of like the way that he's looked at is not the exact same way that every other president was looked at, and a lot of the ways that he's looked at is more beneficial to the United States citizens than the way other presidents were looked at. And I think that the people in NATO, the Europeans, are beginning to get that feel and really understand and see that for what it is. And he's 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 earning their respect, and you're starting to see them call him daddy. So there's that. It's it's just so funny to me that Kamala Harris goes on, the only podcast she did was call her daddy, and now they're calling him daddy, and that's the name of this episode, is call him daddy, because of the whole Kamala Harris going on call her daddy. And I just find it so freaking ironic and so damn funny that I can't stop obsessing over it. And that's why we're covering it a week later, is because I found it hilarious. So, anyway, now let's talk about the strikes in Iran. And I mean, I think most of y'all know that I tend to agree with like Scott Horton, Dave Smith, on these types of scenarios. I think more times than not, they make the more compelling case for being anti-war than I hear. Like the emotional argument about why we should be bombing everyone to an oblivion is just so fucking tiring. I'm tired of hearing it. I don't give a shit. I don't care that you want to kill a bunch of people. I don't want to kill people. I'm just a normal guy. Here, I'll tell you a story. So, over the last few weeks, I told y'all that work's been kind of crazy. So, over the last few weeks, I've been training a lot of guys. And given I have a lot of years of experience driving truck, that they like to put some of these guys with me and at least give me a chance to ride with them and make my assessments and see what they're doing. And I appreciate the confidence and them understanding the resource that I am when it comes to these things. I also despise training people. I hate it. I've been because I've been driving for so long, I'm so used to being alone. I don't want somebody else in the truck with me. Like it makes me uncomfortable. I don't like it. And I don't like sitting in the passenger seat. Like I'm very like particular about the way that I operate a truck and a vehicle and I work, I've been doing it for so long that it's just so weird to me to have another presence in that vehicle with me. That being said, there was this black guy they put in with me. Good dude, really really cool dude. And he had just gotten off running construction, running low boys, bringing you know freaking front end loaders and all these different things to the job sites. But he's running low boys. It's a different kind of trailer. It's a different type of rig. It's just the setup's different. So I had to spend a couple of days with him, and we got talking about that Carmelo Anthony situation. And I don't know a lot about it. I kind of heard it like a few months back or a few weeks back, whatever, a month ago, whatever. Kind of in the peripheral. Heard somebody talk about it. I was like, all right. But obviously, because it's a black kid and a white kid were involved, like race has got to be brought up. And as soon as that's brought up, like 90% of the time, I just shut down. I just shut it off because I don't care about like listening to your race baiting arguments. I don't find them compelling. I don't want anything to do with them. I don't like them. I'm not going to engage in it. And so it's pretty much what happened is I heard somebody bring this up and then like next thing I know it's like, well, it's because he's black. And I'm like, I don't give a fuck what color the kid is. Like, who cares? What does that even matter? Who even gives a shit? By the way, I'm drinking Andy Gator, Abita Lager Andy Gator tonight. Yeah, I love this shit. Abita is one of the greatest freaking local beers down. It's from a little town, Abita, Louisiana, down near New Orleans, actually. So, I mean, I guess it's near New Orleans, near enough to New Orleans, whatever. So we got talking, and he kind of gives me like his view of this story, which I don't have any reason to say that he's not correct. I don't know the story. I haven't looked into the story. But he basically tells me these two kids getting an altercation. This one kid stabs another kid. And at first they were talking about charging the kid with self-defense, but now they're talking about charging him with murder. And then he asked me, he goes, "What do you think about that?" And those were the only, that was it. That was all he told me. That's all the detail he gave me. And I already had a little bit of knowledge. So I knew like one of the kids like was black and one of the kids was white. So I was kind of like, all right. But he didn't bring that up. He didn't bring the race up at all. And I was like, you know what, man? I just don't want kids going around killing each other. Like, I don't care. Like, I don't care what anything about anything. I just want them to not be killing each other. Go out there, go jump in the freaking, back behind the school and, have a little scrap, beat the shit out of each other and be done with it. But don't be killing each other. Like, I don't want that. And I don't want the kid that stabbed the other kid to be charged with murder Like it's bad enough that one kid's life was taken, and now we're ruining another kid's life. Now another kid's life is being ruined. Not that we're ruining it, but another kid's life is being ruined, and he has no hope and no future now because of this action. And it's like this is ridiculous. There's no reason that this should lead to any sort of arguments. Every person, every like normal human being, every normal adult should be like, "What the fuck, man?" Like two children's lives were just taken from us. Period. That's what happened. They were like two teenagers that had their entire lives ahead of them have now been ripped from society in one way, shape, or form. And it's a freaking travesty. And we should not be arguing over whether Carmelo Anthony is being charged with murder because he's black. No, it's because he brought a knife to a school event. And then, whenever he got in a verbal altercation, he pulled the knife and freaking stabbed some dude. I mean, I think the guy might have pushed him, but I mean, come on, dude. Like, being pushed is not the same as being stabbed. Like, we can all acknowledge that. We're adults here. So, um, yeah, man, it's sad. It says something like very serious about us. And it's so interesting that on one side of the equation, we could be so willing to involve ourselves in some petty squabble over immutable characteristics because some kid decided to kill another kid. We don't talk about, well, how do we keep our kids from killing each other? No, we talk about, well, the only reason you're charging him with murder is because he's black. Well, that and maybe because he killed somebody, like it's just so ridiculous. I don't understand like why that's the immediate turn. Why can't we all just stop, step back, look at the situation and say this is terrible. It's terrible for both children, for both their families, and for society to have these things continuing to go on. And as much as we like to squabble about these little freaking like weird arguments over things that, I mean, honestly, I don't think racism has anything to do with anything that's happening in that situation. I really don't. I believe there's a small Texas town and the star, like, I think it was a star football player, like quarterback or something like that, was murdered at a track event because some kid from the other school sat under a freaking tent that he didn't belong under. Like, whatever, man. Like, it's such small shit, and it leads to these monstrous consequences where you lose two kids. You're losing two kids. It doesn't matter. Like, both of these kids are being lost. They're gone. Their lives are over. One of them's dead, and one of them's going to be in prison for fucking who knows how long. And that's what we should be. That's what we should be focused on. Is how do you stop that? Like, why does that happen? We don't want that to happen. None of us should want that to happen. Like, we shouldn't want the South Side of Chicago to be Chirac, right? We shouldn't want that. We shouldn't want all the murder and violence going on in all these, regions of the United States, Baltimore, New Orleans, Chicago, LA. We shouldn't want that. We shouldn't want these kids killing each other. And there's something like real about coming to the realization like the thing about the story that actually matters is two kids lost their lives. One kid is dead and the other is going to be in prison for the rest of his life. And that's the terrible part of the story. The terrible part of the story is that two kids lost their lives. And for what? Like, why? Why did this kid feel like that was his recourse? What made him think that that was the proper way to react in a situation like that? You know? And these things need to be solved. These problems need to be solved. Maybe it's a parental problem. Maybe it's a societal problem. I tend to think it's more of a societal problem. I think that we um, glorify like like murder and death more than we should. And so this brings me to the Iran, the bombing of Iran or the nuclear sites in Iran. Um, Obviously, I don't want people to die for no fucking reason. You know, I like none of us have seen the evidence that shows that Iran was actually attempting to create a nuclear weapon. Like that's never been disclosed to us. We've never seen that evidence. Tulsi Gabbard in March said it wasn't the case, and then Bibi Netanyahu and the Mossad come out and last month and say, yeah, well, it's absolutely the case, and Tulsi Gabbard doesn't know what the fuck she's talking about. Then Donald Trump starts talking shit on Tulsi Gabbard about how she doesn't know what she's talking about, which is fucking insane because that's your DNI, dude. That's your director of national intelligence. Like, if your director of national intelligence doesn't know what the fuck she's talking about, then you're probably the problem lies with you, and you need to do something about that. So, but just all right. So I want to take this in a couple of different directions because I just feel like it's important that we we point out some very interesting things that a lot of people are pointing out, but it's getting taken the wrong way. Not only do we like to like argue over stupid bullshit and immutable characteristics and shit like that, but humans love excellency. Excellency is one of those things that when we see it, when we're watching it, like you have a like a physical reaction to seeing something that is just so excellent, like something done with such excellence. Like when you watch like Danny Carey play the drums, right? And like in Numa, like it's just incredible. You're like, what is this? This is unreal. Like, how can one person do that? And you get this like it makes you feel like you're witnessing something special, you know. Everybody wants to be there when Jordan hits that game-winning shot with no time left on the clock in Game 7, right? Like everybody wants to say that I know where I was when this happened. I know where I was when that happened. I remember, when the what was it oh, I'm probably going to get this wrong, but didn't the Oilers like blow a 42-point lead or something like that in like the 90s, like 1995 or 96 in the playoffs against the Buffalo Bills to and the winner would go to the Super Bowl and the Oilers were up by like 42 points going into the third quarter and then the Bills just fucking just killed them or something like some shit like that happened. I know something like that happened. It's been a lot of years. But when you're watching something so spectacular take place, you're just like you go into shock. You're like, wow, like okay, so like just over the last couple of weeks in MMA in the UFC world, y'all know I like UFC. So the one of the greatest fighters of all time, and like you can have your disputes about whether he's the greatest fighter of all time or not, based upon the PEDs and his criminal history. But he retired. John Jones retired, refusing to fight Tom Aspinall. And and a lot of people were like looking back and going, well, he didn't have the downfall of like Chuck Liddell or uh, Frankie Edgar, um, whatever, whoever, whichever guys, right? And it's like, no, and watching him fight, like especially at the 205-pound division when he was fighting in the light heavyweight division, that was special, man. That was special in like the mid 2000s, like 2008, 2009, 2010, and John Jones became the world champion at 21 years old. Never lost a fucking fight. Like it was special to watch. The dude was just insane. He was incredible. And there were some guys that pushed him to the limit and pushed him hard, and he always found a way like to come out, make adjustments in between rounds, come out, utilize those adjustments, and freaking take over that fight. And it happened time after time and time after time and time after time and time after time. And he was just so good at that. And like you can talk about his his PED use or his antics outside the cage with illegal troubles on this and the other, but that doesn't to me that doesn't take away from his raw ability. You know, maybe there's something to be said about the performing performance enhancing drugs. I've heard people with different opinions on PEDs. Some people are like, "Fuck it, like let's let everybody do it. And who cares? It's a fight. A fight's a fight." And then, friend of the show, Kim Robinson, he doesn't like it. He's like, "No, I don't want anything. I don't want to fight a guy who's on performance enhancing drugs." Okay, fine, but you get different opinions on that. So like, I don't really but just raw ability, his ability to make adjustments, his intelligence, his fight IQ. Like nobody has ever matched John Jones. Now they've been close, and I'm lucky enough to have seen all these guys fight because I've been watching this shit since 1994. You know, so you get like Mighty Mouse, right? Demetrius Johnson, incredible fighter, 125 pounds, but an incredible fighter, just an incredible fighter. And didn't get the respect he deserved until he retired and he was gone. And sometimes that's how it works. But like, I really like to listen to him break down fights. George St. Pierre was one of the greatest of all time. I never liked him. I didn't. I didn't care for his style of fighting. I didn't care for his personality. He seemed too nice. Like, and I was like, nobody's ever that fucking nice. Come to find out, he was all Canadians are that nice. I didn't know that at the time. I just thought that was bullshit. But no, it's true. All Canadians are that nice. So he was just being Canadian. He was just being true to his heritage. But I would never like diminish what he did in that octagon, what he was able to accomplish. And now today we're watching a guy who just knocked out Charles Oliveira 2 minutes and 20 some odd seconds into the first round, Ilya Taporia. And there's a lot about that kid I don't like. And he's like 28 years old. But there's a lot about him I don't like as far as his personality. I would never say he's not a good fighter. I wouldn't. I wouldn't take that away from him. And so you don't necessarily have to like all the circumstances around a person or a situation to recognize the greatness that's going on right there in front of you. And I just want to make that clear that just because I point out greatness in some event or some person doesn't mean that I like approve of everything that is on around that event or that person. It's just I can recognize greatness when I see greatness. And we're all to some degree at awe when we see something like that happen. Something that is just so beyond our comprehension of how to operate within this world. And I saw that happen with those B 2 bomber pilots. What they did, flying 18 hours from Missouri to Iran, fueling up in the air, turning around and flying back another 18 hours. I think the total time in the air for those guys, 37 hours straight. Like, that's an incredible feat. To hit the target the way that they hit the target, like, I've heard people say that the technology on these B 2 bombers is so advanced that from what I don't know what they're flying at 30,000, 40,000 feet, but the technology is so advanced that they can hit the top of a soda can with the ordinances. Like that's freaking precise, man. I couldn't go out there with my 9 millimeter and hit the top of a freaking soda can consistently. I know I might get frustrated trying, but I'm not going to do it consistently. Like that's a tight pattern. And from that distance, wow, like that technology is incredible. What those guys were able to accomplish was incredible. And we know a lot of military veterans. We have a lot of friends that are anti-war that are military veterans. Like we can acknowledge the excellence and the time they put in to train to be able to do this and acknowledge them as like experts in their field doing something truly extraordinary and still be able to say, I wish we wouldn't have done it. But man, what they were able to accomplish was pretty incredible. And we got to at least acknowledge that. Like what they were able to accomplish was pretty incredible. Right. And so just to acknowledge that is not necessarily to co-sign on the strikes themselves. It's just to say, wow, that was fucking insane. You know, like how much training and time went into planning and plotting and flying and doing to in order to stay in the air for 37 hours, being fueled up in the air while you're still in flight and hitting such small targets from such a high distance. Like they were on point, they were precise, and they did their job to excellence. And that's all that needs to be said about that. And I don't think there's any reason whatsoever we should demean these guys or talk bad about these guys. What they did was extraordinary. Like whether or not you like what they did, it as far as like the what it means as far as the US's involvement in Iran, it's pretty extraordinary. Now, as far as our involvement in Iran, I was totally against it. I think the last episode I recorded, I said, like, don't fucking get involved in Iran. Like, we don't need this. I don't want anything to do with it. I don't think most people in the military want anything to do with it. And Trump walked a fine line, and kudos to him for dropping these bombs and not getting bloodthirsty, but instead turning around and saying, okay, that's it. Ceasefire. We're done. It's over. Iran, you've seen what the capabilities of Israel is. You've seen what the capabilities of the United States is. We've seen what your capabilities are. You don't stand a chance. Stop before a lot of people die that don't need to die. We can handle this in another way that doesn't involve the death of a bunch of innocent people. I appreciate that about Donald Trump because ultimately he looks at this job as a businessman would look at the job, and he's like, look, man, like you don't go into business killing a bunch of people. That's not how you don't create customers by killing customers. That's not the way it works. And so I think he kind of has this like this natural like kind of instinct to stop violence because he doesn't believe it's good for business. Like violence is not good for business. Violence does not accomplish goals. It does not make you more money. It is actually really bad for your freaking bottom line and for advertisement. And I think he sees it that way and wants to cut down on the potential of killing people. And I appreciate that about them. Even though I think that making those strikes might have been were a mistake, so far since those strikes have taken place, the the response from Iran has been minimal. Um, and and Israel has, kind of made a fool out of themselves, in the response to Iran's limited response. And so maybe it was the right decision, you know. Maybe my instinct of saying no, don't get involved was wrong. Maybe the right thing to do was not only to show Iran this is what we're capable of, but remind Israel that without us, you can't do these things. And so bring a bat to the fight, swing the bat once, let both parties know that if you pull the bat out, they're both in trouble. And now we're going to put an end to it. Maybe that's the right way to do it. Like I've said before on some of my podcasts, I was talking to Kyle and we were talking about like disciplining children. And I was like, sometimes it's in the best interest of the child to spank the child instead of let them run out in the road and fucking get hit by a car. You know, Spanking is going to be a lot less detrimental and it's going to have much fewer consequences in the long run than letting the child go out in the street and get hit by a car. So sometimes using, you know, some restrained amount of force is actually the best thing that you can do in a situation. And maybe that's what happened with Trump. Maybe daddy had it right. So I don't know. I can't say it. I can't say that without laughing. I'm sorry. That is so funny. We are going to call him daddy though. I've heard other people like who was it? Milo called him daddy throughout his first term, but just the fact that the NATO security chief called Donald Trump daddy, it just fucking makes me fucking laugh. That is so fucking funny to me. So, but yeah, so maybe he was correct. And if things continue to go down the same trajectory that they're going right now, then it's possible that he made the right decision and saved more lives than he cost. I haven't heard a death toll from these bombings. I don't know if there was anybody in the facilities when they were bombed. They were bombed um, in the evening, and so I'm not sure if there was anybody there, if the facilities had been emptied. There are rumors and stories that the Iranians have began getting the nuclear material out of these facilities, and that it was just the reactors that were damaged. But they want to stop them from um, producing material that up to 90% uranium that can be used in a nuclear bomb, and 60%, I believe, can be used in a dirty bomb. So they're like, look, man, keep it around 3.5, 4%, which is for civilian use and for power, and we can talk. But once you start getting up there to 60%, 90% uranium, then you're talking about weapons grade, and they want to prevent Iran from creating weapons grade uranium. So, um, I don't know. Like, as much as my instinct is, my knee jerk reaction is to be like, fuck, don't do that. Maybe it works out. And so far it's looking okay. And it hadn't put us in a really bad situation as of now. Doesn't mean that it's all that we're out of the freaking, you know, potential for something to go bad. Yeah, but uh, at the moment, things could be a lot worse than they are right now. So that's kind of all I had to say about that. I don't know how long I've been recording, but I mean, those are kind of my opinions on those things. There were a few more things that happened, like with the birthright citizenship ordeal and this, that, and the other. But you can hear about all those stories like going around, listening to other news agencies. I think basically what the Supreme Court decided was we're not going to rule on birthright citizenship per se, but what we are going to say is all these national injunctions are freaking unconstitutional. Like a district judge in Virginia cannot make a ruling that applies to a case in Seattle or whatever. And yeah, that's pretty common sense type bullshit. I figure that's how that was going to turn out. That it never seemed like that was going to stick. So yeah, that's all I got. I'm gonna go finish my Andy Gator because it's such good beer, and I'm gonna chill out and see if I can't maybe take a shower tonight before I go to bed because I'm pretty sweaty, and I don't know if I want to be in bed all sweaty like this. So I'll probably take a shower, and I'll be releasing this episode before the 4th of July, which is what, Friday. So y'all, everybody have a happy 4th of July. Be safe. I've had friends that have gotten hurt seriously. Um, Celebrating holidays with fireworks, and I've done stupid shit with fireworks, and I'm lucky to have never gotten injured, but I've seen a lot of people get injured, seen a lot of bad things happen when playing with fireworks. So y'all, when you're out there, just be careful and keep your eyes open and be safe. Take care of those around you, and make sure everybody's safe and has a good time, and can wake up the next day and pretend like everything that happened the night before was completely rational and alcohol was not involved. So y'all have a good one, and we will talk to you next week. Hopefully, we'll start be getting some more interviews coming up shortly. Things should be settling down here pretty soon, so I should be able to get some more people on the podcast and plan ahead a little bit more than I have here in the last few weeks. So hang in there. We'll be back on schedule before long, and let's rock and roll, man.